Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel and happy Halloween. So today I want to talk about my favorite Halloween movies to watch. So I'm going to do a top 10 list of my absolute favorite things to watch for Halloween, and while doing so I'm going to be carving a pumpkin because it's Halloween and why not. So I'm going to go ahead and roll the intro while I draw on a little face here. So with that being said, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and let's begin. Alright, here's the little starter face I have on him. It looks really rough, but we're going to see if I can make it look a little cooler during the sculpting process. Maybe I'll even change the position of the eyes a little bit. So let's get started. So, number 10 on the list definitely has to be a movie that is not particularly Halloween spirited, but it's definitely one that I watch every year around this time, and that is Stephen King's The Shining. So, The Shining is a really good movie and a really good story, but to me, I always associate it with the winter and the cold months a lot more because of all the cold stuff that happens in the movie. So, I really like it, and it's a great piece of work, especially by Stephen King, but I don't consider it a Halloween film particularly. So, for that reason, it definitely has to sit at number 10. Now, for the everyone's favorite part of carving a pumpkin, you gotta de-gut it. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that really quickly. All right, so we got our pumpkin nice and gutted, and now I guess we can go ahead and talk about number 9. So number 9 definitely has to be Child's Play. Definitely one of my favorite slasher films. I love Chucky. He's basically a original Universal monster at this point. He's up there with Dracula and everyone else, I think at least. But the movie, again, similar to The Shining, it takes place in like a Chicago winter. So it doesn't really feel so much like a Halloween movie as it does like just a regular kind of slasher movie. But I really do enjoy it. It is one of the good creepy watches you definitely got to check out around this time of year. And I definitely recommend it. But it's definitely on the list as number 9 because it's not particularly Halloween themed. So, yeah. All right, let's move on to number 8. So number 8 definitely has to be The Craft. The Craft is a really, really good 90s movie. It feels like the 90s. That movie just drips the 90s. And it's about witches, which is definitely a nice Halloween theme for the movie to center itself around. So I really do like to watch it around the holidays, around Halloween. But I also watch it a lot in the summer as well. That movie for me is like any time of the year movie. So I don't too much associated with Halloween, but it's definitely one that I watch around this time of year because it's on TV all the time now. So I definitely have it saddled at number 8. It's a little more Halloween related than the other two, but as far as films, I do still have to say I like the other two a bit more. So that's why The Craft sits at number 8. Get one eye going. Get one eye going. So let's move on to number 7. Number 7 definitely has to be one of my favorite Tim Burton movies of all time. It's Beetlejuice. So Beetlejuice is much more close to a regular Halloween kind of movie, but it's still not quite, purely Halloween themed. But Michael Keaton's performance, as well as Winona Ryder, and oh my goodness, the entire movie is just so good. Like, those performances are so iconic. Michael Keaton's Beetlejuice is one of the best characters that Tim Burton has ever created, and his performance in that role was just so well done, and it just encapsulates so many things that are just quintessential about Halloween. So I definitely have to put it on the list. Pretty much anything Tim Burton does fits Halloween perfectly, so it definitely suits him to be on this list. But because it's still, again, not purely Halloween, I can't put it quite all the way up there, because a lot of the stuff that I really, really like to watch around this time of year is very much purely a celebration of Halloween. So despite the fact that I'm putting some really good movies on the lower end of my list, that's the reason why. I do love those movies, but for Halloween itself, not particularly suited for the holiday, I would say. So number 6, we have Halloween, the original from 1978. That movie is a must watch. It is required viewing every year. Every year for Halloween, I think everyone should give that movie a watch, because it is like what kicked off every horror thing, every holiday themed slasher, I'll say. It's the one that kind of kicked it off, and it's like the quintessential. It's one of the greatest slashers out there, and it was the start of one of the most iconic slasher villains to exist. Of course, that being Michael Myers. It's hard to find a much more perfect holiday to watch Halloween other than Halloween. So let's go to number 5. Pretty much everything from 5 down to 1 is much more particularly Halloween related. So everything else from 5 down to 1 is much more Halloween related specifically. So that's why I'm going to start off number 5 with a kind of a cheat, but it totally works for me. All of the Treehouse of Horrors, all of the Simpsons Treehouse of Horrors. Those are quintessential viewing. I've seen every single one except for like the more modern ones. Like, I don't really care for like super modern Simpsons, but like all the original ones are perfect. Like The Raven, that is my version of The Raven. I've never heard it. Like, I mean, I've read it in class and stuff like that, but that is quintessential. Like, that is the version. Like, for me, like, that is my version of Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven. And yeah, the Treehouse of Horrors has been one of the greatest TV special type traditions that's been going on for the longest time. Like, and it's so perfect, and it's so exactly a part of the Halloween feel that I always look for every year. So it's definitely on this list, but it's a little bit of a cop out because there's so many episodes. But I'm just going to put all of them at number 5. All right, so let's move on to number 4. Number 4 has to be Trick or Treat. Trick or Treat has the most Halloween energy of any modern movie that I've seen in the longest time. The entire movie is about the spirit of Halloween and about the way you should always remember the rules of Halloween. And it creates some iconic rules, ones that people have most often have always known, but no one really ever speaks about out loud. So I thought it was brilliantly done. And it's definitely one of my favorite ones to watch around this time of year, and I watch it every single year. So that's definitely why it's down on the list. It's not in the top 3, but it's definitely closer to number 1. So, number 3. While not strictly a Halloween movie, I definitely watch it all the time around Halloween because it's, again, the Tim Burton aesthetic. It's The Addams Family, the one from the 1990s, from 1991, exactly. That is my absolute favorite version of the movies. I like it even better than Addams Family Values. To me, it has some of the energy of the original TV show and some of the energy of something more like Beetlejuice. And it feels so much like a Halloween aesthetic just from the Addams Family, like aesthetic in and of itself. So it's definitely appropriate for a Halloween viewing. and I definitely recommend it. And so that's definitely why it is at number 3. So these last few on the list are completely just completely biased, I guess, in a way. They're 100% influenced by the fact that I watched them as a child, and for that reason they're basically like, they're like a warm blanket. They're almost like my comfy reads that I talked about in that video. But these two are so very much for Halloween. So number 2 on the list definitely has to go to Halloween Town 2, Calabar's Revenge. So I know I hear some flack about the Halloween Town movies on the internet quite a bit, and to me they are perfect family films for Halloween. Like when I was a kid and finally watched it with my sister, and we watched Disney Channel and stuff like that, it just was so perfect Halloween stuff. Like it was on TV a couple years, like when we came back from going out and getting our candy and stuff. So we would sit down and eat our candy and stuff as our parents claimed to like inspect it while they're really just eating it with us, and we would just like sit there and watch it. It was just like an awesome little thing we used to do and stuff. So I really like that movie a lot, and it's so nostalgic, and it just is all in the comfort feels and stuff, so it's completely biased. And that same goes for number 1. So if Halloween Town is number 2, then you can probably already guess what number 1 is. It is the most cliche, the most obvious freaking Halloween movie ever, but it is the best one. It is so iconic that when it flopped in the box office when it originally came out, it just literally needed to buy its time, and much like the characters in the movie, it just needed to be resurrected for a new generation to enjoy it and obsess over it. And now as a result, we're getting a sequel to it. So without further ado, I'll let you know number 1 is obviously Hocus Pocus. One of the most fun family horror movies, or not even horror movies, but one of the most fun family Halloween movies to exist. And it is absolutely my favorite. I love Bette Midler in it. I love Sarah Jessica Parker and Kathy and Jimmy. I love them in it so much. I love the entire plot of it. It's so goofy and so stupid and so quintessential like 90s and young kid and stuff like that. It's so hilarious. And it tickles like all those parts above the of my nostalgic brain that loves all this kind of stuff, all the Halloween stuff. So yeah, that is definitely why Hocus Pocus has to be number 1. So let's take a look at this pumpkin right now. It looks really, really rough. A lot of the marks and stuff are still on there, and you just get this kind of goofy little face here. But I have a couple things that I want to do more. So I'm going to probably just time lapse it and let you all see the end result in a minute. So, all right. Alright. Alright, so that's it. That was my top 10 favorite movies to watch around Halloween. And here is my jack-o'-lantern. He looks a little rough, but I wanted to try this thing that I saw with the teeth. But it's a lot harder to do the teeth like this than I originally assumed. But I hope you guys like it. Let me know what's your favorite movies to watch around Halloween. Let me know about that in the comments down below. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And I will talk to y'all next time. Peace.